All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most important frameworks in all of IT, change management. And trust me, this is not about boring bureaucracy. This is the super detailed, structured process that lets companies innovate and update their systems without everything crashing down. It's really the foundation for both stability and progress.
So let's just cut right to the chase. Why should you care about this? Well, because if you're in IT or you want to be, these are the exact timelines and definitions that an interviewer is going to expect you to know inside and out. This isn't just theory, folks. This is practical stuff you need for your career. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with why this whole thing matters. Then we'll get into the three main types of change. That includes your everyday, planned stuff, and of course, those high-stakes emergencies. We'll even talk about when all changes have to stop completely. And then we'll wrap it all up by looking at the big balancing act behind it all. First things first, let's talk about why these timelines are even a thing. You see, managing IT changes isn't a free-for-all where people just do what they want when they want. It's a structured system for one really important reason: to stop things from breaking while still making sure we can get critical updates and improvements out the door.
Here's the core concept you need to get. Not all changes are created equal. Updating a password policy is a completely different universe from, say, migrating a massive server. And because of that, every single action gets sorted into a specific category, and each one has its own set of rules and its own timeline.
So what are these categories? Well, the entire system, no matter how big or complicated the company is, really just boils down to three fundamental types of change.
And here they are: standard, normal, and emergency. Seriously, if you can master the difference between these three, you've cracked the code on the whole change management process. So let's break each one down.
We're going to start with the two types of planned changes. These are the ones that make up pretty much all the day-to-day work in an IT shop, the stuff that keeps the business humming along and moving forward step by step.
First up is the standard change. The best way to think about this is your routine, everyday task. Like setting up a new user account or applying a security patch that's already been tested a million times. Because it's so low risk and predictable, it gets pre-approved.
And that brings us to the magic number for a standard change: 0. 0 days needed for approval. Now, that doesn't mean it's chaotic. It just means the whole process was already checked out and given the thumbs up ahead of time. It's like an automatic green light that lets IT teams handle routine stuff quickly.
Now, the actual implementation has a bit of flex. It usually happens anytime from immediately up to 5 days out. But that window isn't for getting approval. It's just for scheduling the work at a good time so it doesn't mess with anything important.
Okay, next we have the normal change. This is the real workhorse of IT. This is for any planned change that is not routine. We're talking about rolling out a new app, upgrading a critical database, putting in new network gear. All of this stuff needs a full, detailed review before anyone touches anything.
And this table here, it lays out that structure perfectly. First, the change has to be assessed for all the potential risks and impacts, which usually takes about 1 to 3 days. Then, it goes to what's called a change advisory board for the official sign-off. And that can take another 2 to 5 days. So the key takeaway is that days of careful planning have already happened before the work even begins.
But what happens when things just break? When a critical service goes down and you definitely don't have days to sit around and plan? Well, that's when we enter the high-stakes world of the emergency change.
Just look at this contrast. It tells you everything you need to know. That careful, multi-day process for a normal change, it gets completely compressed. Assessment drops from days to under an hour. Approval, which could take a week, now has to happen in less than 2 hours. The whole system shifts its focus to one thing and one thing only: speed.
The goal here is simple: get it fixed and get it fixed now. The target is to get that service back up and running in under 4 to 12 hours. This is an all-hands-on-deck situation. And get this, the approval can sometimes even happen after the fix is already in. The number one priority is restoring service, period.
Now, there are these rare but incredibly important times when the risk of making any change is just way too high. And this is when a business will call for a change freeze.
A change freeze is pretty much what it sounds like. It's a specific period of time where no normal changes are allowed to be implemented. The goal is just absolute maximum stability. The business has flagged a time period that is so critical it can't afford even the smallest chance of an IT problem.
And here are some classic examples, right? For a retail company, trying to do a major server upgrade on Black Friday, that would be completely nuts. Same goes for a big public company during its end-of-quarter financial close.
During these times, the message from the top is crystal clear. Don't touch anything unless it's a catastrophic emergency.
So as we start to put a bow on this, what's the big picture? This entire framework we just walked through, it's all about a constant balancing act between two huge competing needs that every business has, the need for speed and the need for stability.
This summary table here ties it all together nicely. Standard changes give you speed and flexibility. Emergency changes are all about immediate action. And normal changes? They're deliberate. They're scheduled based on something called the Forward Schedule of Change, or FSC, which is basically the master calendar for all planned IT work. As you can see, each timeline is perfectly matched to its level of risk.
At the end of the day, here's what you've got to remember. Good change management isn't there to stop progress. It's there to be a guardrail. The goal isn't to say no to change, it's to make sure that every single change actually improves the business without accidentally breaking it.
And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question every single tech organization is wrestling with. This structured framework gives you the tools, but finding that perfect sweet spot between moving fast and not breaking things, well, that is the constant, critical challenge. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.